I'm Jared Petty, and this is IGN News. October 21st, 2015 is the date Marty McFly travels to at the beginning of Back to the Future Part 2. And to celebrate, Pepsi will release 6,500 limited edition bottles of Pepsi Perfect online. Pepsi Perfect is the drink Marty orders at the Cafe 80s in Back to the Future Part 2. And the real-life version will measure 16.9 ounces and come in a special collectible case. According to the AV Club, the bottles will cost $20.15, haha, 2015, and details for purchasing the bottles will be available via Pepsi's social media feeds. Excited rumors began to circulate at the end of September when a Pepsi Perfect concept drawing leaked onto the internet. If you can't wait to get your hands on a bottle of limited edition sugar water and you're attending the New York Comic Con this week, the first 200 fans who come dressed as Marty McFly will receive a free bottle complete with a special edition case. Of course, we here at IGN will also be at NYCC, so if you're one of the 200 who dressed like Marty and got your hands on one of those really cool collectibles, please stop by and say hello and challenge us to a game of Wild Gunman. Oh wait, Wild Gunman? You have to use your hands. That's like a game for a baby. Well, for more, stay tuned to IGN.
Dearest Mother, Happy St. Patrick's Day. You know, today always reminds me of a specific time of my youth. I remember as a child, we would have Heritage Week at school, and year after year, the little dark-haired boy with the Portuguese last name would put on his green hat, his white sweater, stick a leprechaun on his desk, one that I know you still have to this day, and while clutching my shillelagh, I would hand out Irish soda bread to teachers and classmates alike. I was raised to completely shun Father's culture, except when it came to Easter and we remembered, hey, aren't we Polish too? Anyway, I miss those days because, well, it was before you disowned me and I had to resort to pretending to type letters on a podcast in the hopes that somehow, some way, you'll hear my melancholy voice. Erin go bra, Mother. Erin go bra. Your biological son, Michael. March 17th, 2022.
Are we back? We're back.
Everybody, guess what I'm doing again? Watching one movie and podcasting about it. Every day in March, it's Back to the Future 2. So listen each day, or at least try, as I bring you year 2 of Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. Oh, Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly.
St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and welcome to another thrilling and exciting episode of the only month-long celebration of Back to the Future 2 that I know of, MARCHY McFLY, where today I watched Back to the Future Part 2 for the 17th time in 17 days. It's crazy. When you get to like 5 or 6 and you're like, oh dear Lord, what have I done? And then a couple more go by, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm nearing halfway. And then you're at the halfway point, and then a couple other days are going to go by, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in the 20s. And then it's just smooth sailing from there. It's like at a certain point you think March is the longest month. Technically, it's tied for the longest month, okay? But today is St. Patrick's Day. Last year, it actually worked out pretty cool because, of course, there's that line in the movie where Biff calls George McFly an Irish bug. And I said, oh, perfect. That was the title of last year's episode. This year, not so much. There's nothing I could find or that I can remember in Back to the Future 2 that is specific for Irish heritage. Half of my heritage. You know, I did some of those St. Patrick's Day things today that you would do. We had the boiled dinner. If you don't know, boiled dinner is another kind of, I think that's more of the Irish term. They call it boiled dinner. It's corned beef and cabbage. That's like the nickname, I think. I don't know. And I remember we didn't really grow up having corned beef and cabbage all that much as a kid, maybe because I was a finicky eater. I remember years later, my wife, we were dating at the time, we were at like visiting my aunt and uncle and grandparents at the beach, and they all got boiled dinner, and I was like, oh my goodness gracious, what is this? And I had it, and then I've had it a few times. I've had my co-host on another podcast, Fine Movies, Fine Spirits, his dad, Chris's dad, has done corned beef, which I've enjoyed. They did it with mustard. I was like, oh, that is good. But, and my mother's done it a few times, but this year we just went out and got it. We got it at a little farm market called Man's Orchard. Look it up. Man Orchards. I'm sorry, it's one of those things where we call it Man's Orchard, but the actual title is Man Orchards. So if you don't know, it's boiled. I assume it's all boiled. I don't know how they did it. Maybe they steam it. I don't know. It's corned beef, delicious. It's carrots, delicious. It's a potato, delicious. And it's cabbage, disgusting. To me, it's like, give me a roll of paper towels, soak them, put them on a plate, and ask me if I can tell the difference between that and cabbage. I don't know. And another thing I mentioned in the little, that little skit at the beginning, I talked about a leprechaun. Very real thing. There's a link in the show notes to this actual leprechaun. I actually posted it on my personal Instagram page as well. But if you go to, if you just click on the link in the show note, you will see this frightening leprechaun that has been, I feel like there were 2 of them at some point, and he definitely had shoes at some point. He has been in my family my entire life. He might have belonged to my grandmother and grandparents first, and then my mother took him in. He's the kind of thing you'd think, like, let's say you see like Conjuring 4, and then you see the Warrens go to that room where they have Annabelle and all these trinkets. You'd think you'd see this leprechaun like on a shelf, and at any point it would turn its head and look at you like, I'm going to steal your soul. But so far he hasn't done anything as far as taking the souls of anyone that I'm aware of. So, yeah, Back to the Future 2. Look at that. I'm already 10 minutes in. I haven't even mentioned Back to the Future 2, except for the fact that I said I did watch it for the 17th time today. And I took notes, but specifically, I want to focus on product placement. Product placement. So first, let me go through the notes that are not product placement related. So what exactly is a hover conversion? You see a hoverboard. Hoverboards, according to Robert Zemeckis, and according to the science of Back to the Future, they're magnets that are used to hover. And you hover what? I don't know, half a foot off the ground? They don't work on water unless you've got power. So why can cars? They're not hovering. They're flying. Don't call them hover conversions, okay? Goldie Wilson III. Don't preach to me about traffic. Don't preach to me about hovering. I want a goddamn flying car. Make my car fly, okay? So I actually wrote a note. Hover conversion. Those cars fly. They don't hover. Yes, this is what it's come to on day 17. I just wrote, like, almost like endearingly, like, wow, Biff was really proud to show off his branded matchbook to Marty. Hey, Marty, I want to look at these new matchbooks I had made up. Like, that's great, Biff. Was he that sad that it's like, I made fancy matchbooks with my name on it? And, I guess that's before Vistaprint. And, like, do people still make matchbooks of things? I feel like I see a matchbook, it should be for a terrible lawyer or for a seedy bar. I did, yesterday I was talking about, in the trivia, I talked about how it said there's still a crack in the courthouse. And I don't think I noticed it until today, 2015. I looked for it today. There's the courthouse, you still see the crack and the burn, just like the trivia said. Why wouldn't you, though? I have an idea for a song. I'm just going to circle that so I don't forget. I wanted to look up why Gray's Sports Almanac. I wonder if that's in the trivia. Gray's Sports Almanac has a nice sound to it, and now it's, somewhat iconic in the Back to the Future world. But I wonder why the word gray was used. Talk about that. Oh, I just wrote down, imagine if the remote in the hot tub somehow had like enough electricity in it that it electrocuted Biff and those two girls. He's like, show's over, Biff, and he throws the remote control in it. We are just innocent hookers, and they die. So I wanted to make a note. How much time do they spend in 1985? Because the more I watch it, the more I feel like I didn't realize, it's very short. I mean, Marty, they get back, puts Jennifer in the chair. Doc creepily says a couple things about it's a dream, like really, really pushing that on Marty. Then he goes back to what he thinks is his house, runs to, leaves there, ends up outside of Strickland's house. Then all of a sudden he's in the downtown area, gets clonked on the head, inside, wakes up. He has to deal with Biff, goes to the grave, goes to with back to Doc's place, finds out what happened, goes back to Biff's, gets on the roof, boom, they're gone. They're out of there for back to 1955. So I took a little note. At 38 minutes and 45 seconds, that's when they return to 1985. So pretty much 38 minutes of the movie was in 1985. And then an hour and 2 minutes, they returned to 1955. So I'm going to do the math right now. Ready? Going to do it live. 38, then you get to 48. 58, that's 22 minutes. Add 15 seconds. So that's 59. So, and then add one more. So now we're at 21 minutes and 15 seconds. Gets you to 1 hour, 2 seconds more, and or unless it's 2 minutes more. I didn't really pay attention. So for the most, really, you think I would have been better prepared. It's about 22 minutes in 1985. That's it. Then they return to 1955 for, it looks roughly about 40 minutes. That seems to be the biggest part of the film is 1955, which is funny because when the movie first came out, I think the thing that excited me the most, and the thing I think I watched the most, because I'd always would be, if I put this on, I'd be asleep by the time they're in 85, was the 2015 stuff. And, just kind of going over it all these times, I'm thinking, this might actually be the weakest part, of the movie. And there's still a lot of fun stuff in there. Okay, now I want to focus on the product placement, because you see a lot of it, and I wanted to kind of make a note everywhere that I noticed it. And really, it's all in 2015. I don't think I saw anything in 1985. And 1955, I don't think I saw anything like product placement, kind of thing, like real companies. So I'm just going to kind of go through and talk about each thing. AT&T. AT&T plays a big part. It seems to be a big sponsor of Back to the Future 2. Early on, when Marty Jr. is, Biff is kind of Doc is trying to find him. He's like, oh, precisely on schedule. By an AT&T phone booth. There's something they didn't quite get right. Phone booths in 2015. You don't see many of those anymore. Later on, we see AT&T is the doorbell. That's the doorbell that they use. The cops press Jennifer's thumb to the door to let her in. And then I see there's an AT&T video call that's the thing. It's a video call that AT&T uses to talk to Needles and then the Jits. And then he gets fired. And in the bathroom, it's an AT&T fax machine in the bathroom that Jennifer gets the "You're Fired" fax from. And if you notice, at the top of the letterhead, it says Cusco, C-U-S-C-O, Cusco. I looked it up on the internet, and it appears that Cusco is a company that we have no idea what it is because it was made up for Back to the Future 2. So it's not exactly a product placement, but it says it was a company in Hill Valley. Apparently the fax had an address on it, 11249 Business Center Road, and a zip code of 95420, Hill Valley. So it's one of those things where Hill Valley has a business center road. I'd like to know where that is. Maybe Marty drives by it in the original movie. It's like Springfield. Everything's in Springfield. It doesn't. I couldn't find anything more about Cusco. I know that Needles works there. It says he's a supervisor, I think. The Jits, Mr. Fujitsu, is the boss. It doesn't say what Marty does, but he does get fired with a lot of help from your friends at AT&T. Jumping back, right away we see a lot of product placement. As I said, in this 2015 opening, Nike, the sneakers are, and it makes sense. Why would I guess the phones, you don't have to have AT&T all over them. And I suppose you're in the future, the sneakers didn't have to have a brand on them, but it gave them more a gravitas when they had the Nike swoosh on them. So that one makes sense, the Nike Power Laces. The USA Today. Now, say what you want. That is product placement for a newspaper. Where the hell was the Hill Valley Telegraph? Everything else in this movie is a newspaper showing the Hill Valley Telegraph. I think all the Biff newspapers are Hill Valley Telegraph. The Doc is committed. The Doc is commended. The George is awarded. George is murdered. Everything is Hill Valley Telegraph. What happened to the Hill Valley Telegraph that USA Today is now the paper of record for Hill Valley? They have their own edition. It's like, hey, USA Today, you want to be in the newspaper? Give us some money. Very good. Texaco, of course, which is another play they were in. They were in the original 1955, right? They were the gas station where everyone comes out and checks the oil. And with this, it's like, get your oil checked, get your landing gear checked. US Air, I wasn't sure if that was a real product placement, if it's supposed to be, because there is US Airways. Which, you want to know something funny? US Airways ceased operations on October 17th, 2015. Which I wanted to add just because it's literally 4 days before this scene takes place in the movie. But again, it's US Air, and this is US Airways. And I think US Air we see again on the TV when Marty Jr. is watching all those TV shows. Pepsi Perfect, of course. I just want a Pepsi. The Pepsi Perfect was kind of here's the thing, the bottle is actually, it was futuristic maybe then, but it's kind of cool looking. And you heard the video at the beginning to mark, Back to the Future Day back in 2015. Pepsi really produced Pepsi Perfect. That commercial was a real thing, as like kind of a promotional for Back to the Future. I think it was the Blu-ray, and just again, they had Pepsi in the original. He wanted a tab. He wanted a Pepsi. Pepsi was, what was it? Pepsi Free. That's what it was called then. Now it's called Pepsi Perfect, which is kind of a good name, a good branded name for a soda pop. So that one, again, none of these things are like outlandishly like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. It's just like, it all kind of makes sense that like, well, I mean, he's not going to go to a cafe and ask for give me a pull from the soda jerk, give me a nice cola. I remember I went to Roll on America once with my dad, and he asked the kid behind the counter for a cola, and the kid was like, what? Coke or Pepsi, Dad? Coke or Pepsi? Either one. It doesn't make a difference. There's a Pontiac dealership in 2015 in the background. Now, of course, Marty, at the beginning, he drives his Toyota, which he gets from, you guessed it, Statler Toyota. So I don't know if this is product placement. It kind of isn't. I think it's more just an inside joke. But I noticed today for the first time ever that, that bat that Biff has that he kind of extends behind his back, it says Kirk Gibson Jr. on it. Now, Kirk Gibson, if you don't know, is a very famous baseball player. And I looked it up, and he does have a son named Kirk Gibson Jr. Kirk Gibson Jr. didn't play baseball, though, but I think at the time, because Kirk got married in 85, so if he had, at some point, who knows if he even had Kirk Jr. by then. You know what I mean? Like that's just the thought of this is kind of funny that he does have a Kirk Jr., so it must have been born by then. Maybe it was his first son, and they decided in 2015 to have the bat be Kirk Gibson Jr. As an homage. And I looked it up. Kirk Gibson Jr. is actually the Managed Detection Response and Enterprise Account Executive for in Franklin, Michigan. I don't know what any of that means. But then it was like below, it showed a picture of his son on his LinkedIn page. And I read something and I said, whoa, it just kind of stopped me in my tracks a little bit. There's a Kirk Gibson Foundation for Parkinson's. And I didn't realize this. I did a little clicking around, and I think it's in 2015 that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which, I mean, anyone in the Back to the Future, family or Back to the Future fandom knows that is, Michael J. Fox has been battling and been trying to, raise money and awareness for Parkinson's disease for decades. And just, this completely caught me off guard just reading that. And it's just like, wow, it's just kind of a wild coincidence. Anyway, on to the hoverboard. Okay, I have to make a transition. I don't know how else to do it. But the hoverboard, just wait, take a second. Okay, the hoverboard, again, is made by Mattel. Again, a very, very big toy company. They're still a thing, right? Mattel? Like, they're the Barbie company. Oh, yeah. They're still, their stock is it now trading at $23.49. It went up a nickel on the NASDAQ. Very good. Barbie, Hot Wheels, Jurassic Park. Oh, yeah. Mattel's still kicking. And that logo is pretty, I would say it's iconic. It's pretty iconic. It's very recognizable. So seeing that, just what it actually tells me is that hoverboards, like a lot of things, there are maybe really expensive ones, and then there are toy ones. And Marty got a toy one, and that little girl did not care when he brought it back, even though she should have been like, a police officer should have arrested Marty then and there for stealing it from her. But she got the pit bull, so she didn't care about that thing. And not the girl with the hoverboard, but the other girl, she was holding a cup, and it wasn't It wasn't a plastic cup. It looked like a big giant mug. Slurpee. It said Slurpee right on it. And if you see later on, there's a store when Doc comes back, and Marty he's like, come over here, I'll land, and that's when he finds out that Marty had the almanac. There's a 7-Eleven in the background there. So now we jump over to the McFly house. I already talked about the AT&T doorbell. I've mentioned this before. There's the hydrator made by Black & Decker, and of course the pizza that they hydrate at level 4 is a Pizza Hut pizza. So it's not just pizza, but again, these are things that you'd think. It's funny because you see all these product placement, but it does seem like something. Like, why wouldn't you buy a Pizza Hut pizza? And I read the foil. It says half pepperoni, half green pepper, which is what you saw. 15-inch, removed from foil. I like that it says, it gives instructions. Please remove from foil. Something funny that I will always notice now and never noticed before was Marty gets his pizza, and he's removing the pepperoni off it, and he's dropping it on the table, and he's going like making these little like sounds like they're little bombs, which I thought was I thought was hilarious, and I never noticed it. Now I'm never gonna not see it, and I think that's really it. I had there's the garden center that fruit please, fruit, but I don't think that's not a brand. I think that's just, but I do like how it's buggy. Like, look, they're in the future, but they're not rich. So they have these things that we would think are crazy, but it doesn't mean they work great all the time. Master Cook behind them, there was a screen with recipes, I'm guessing. I don't think Master Cook is a brand name either. And then when Marty is, sliding his card through the slot and just about to get fired, I was like, is that a Bowflex in the background? I noticed a fish the other day, but I don't know if that was a Bowflex. That's it. That's it. We did it. I think that's every piece of product placement, because there's nothing in Biff's that I remember. In Biff's Pleasure Palace. And then again, nothing back in 1955. Right? Yeah, no. So, we nailed it. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Thank you guys for sticking with this for 17 straight days. If you are listening, you're part of the rare group of people who enjoy this podcast. You're special, and I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Geek Mentality. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. That's because the website is fansnotexperts.com. This is Marchy McFly, part of Geek Mentality. That's the name of the podcast. And until tomorrow, my friends, you know the deal, right? Here is my theme song. This is my podcast, I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.